It was so obvious that I don't even know how I missed this versus video. But I'm gonna make it right now. Sony XB40 versus the JBL Xtreme. For the last few months, the Sony XB40 has been my go-to speaker. But that was until I got the JBL Extreme. And if you're in the market for a larger portable Bluetooth speaker, you might be wondering which is right for you. So we're about to find out. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and you can check out some of my other versus videos here after you're done watching this video. Right now might be a good as time as any to pick either of these speakers up because they're both on sale. The Sony XB40 usually retails for $248, but now you can get it for $198 and you can get it in 3 colorways, black, blue, or red. The JBL Extreme also comes in black, blue, or red, and you can get it for as low as $237. Keep in mind the JBL Extreme usually retails for $300. If you want to pick either of these speakers up, I'll have links in the description below, and I'll keep them updated so you can get the best deals possible. For starters, these speakers are very different from one another. The Sony XB40 is a rounded rectangular box with soft touch rubber on the majority of its body and a painted metal grille on the front. This speaker comes equipped with dual 61mm full range speakers and dual passive radiators in the front. It even has a built-in light feature. Control buttons can be found on the top, and there's even an NFC touch point. You can control your music playback, adjust the volume, answer and calls, and activate Siri. On the back, you'll find a rather difficult to remove plastic garment, but under it you'll find an aux jack, a charging port, and one USB out so you can charge your own devices. The JBL Extreme is a little larger than the Sony XB40 and weighs in at 2.1 kilos or a little more than 4.5 pounds. While the Sony XB40 weighs 3.3 pounds or 1.5 kilos. Just like other JBL products, the JBL Extreme has the same cylindrical design. It has dual passive radiators on either side with a diameter of 63mm. It's also wrapped in tight nylon mesh weave, and under it there are dual 35mm tweeters and dual 63mm transducers. On the top of the device, you'll find your control buttons. You can do everything the Sony XB40 can do, except you can't go back a track. Like I've said in past videos, not being able to go back a track by triple pressing the play button on JBL speakers is a pet peeve of mine. It's also a very big first world problem. On the back of the Extreme, you'll find a zipper, and under the zipper, you'll find 3 USB ports, an aux jack, and a power port. One of these USB ports is used for servicing the Extreme, and the other 2 can be used to charge your own devices like the Sony XB40. Both of these speakers give you the option to lay them flat or stand them on their side, but honestly, I think you're better off laying these speakers flat for a few reasons. The Sony XB40 is really easy to topple over, and I find if you stand the JBL Extreme on its side, the passive radiator will hit the table if you're listening to something with a lot of bass and causing a lot of rattling. Due to their size and weight, these speakers are a little hard to take with you on the go compared to smaller options on the market, but JBL made it a little easier by adding hooks on the Extreme so you can attach a strap and carry the Extreme on your shoulder. Personally, if I were getting either of these speakers, I would just use them in my room or use them around the house when I have guests over. But if you're going to be taking either of these speakers with you to the beach, pool, or lake, just know the JBL Extreme is just splash proof while the Sony XB40 is IPX5 certified. You can get either of these a little wet, but whatever you do, do not submerge them. I do believe the Sony XB40 is a little more resistant to water than the JBL Extreme, because if you pour too much water on the Extreme, it's going to sound a little drowned out until it gets completely dry again. I'm guessing water gets trapped inside or something. Concerning battery life, the JBL Extreme has a 10,000 mAh battery and advertises a battery life of 15 hours. But I've managed to squeeze out 17 hours of battery life with the volume set at 50% and asking very nicely. On the other hand, I found the Sony XB40 has a battery life of around 20 hours with the volume set at 50% and the light feature turned on. I suppose if you use the Sony XB40 with the light feature turned off, you could get closer to the advertised battery life of 24 hours. But the JBL Extreme makes it really easy to know how much battery you've got left thanks to the battery gauge on the front. On the other hand, you have to press and hold the phone button on the Sony XB40 and wait for it to give you a verbal readout of its current battery state. Nonetheless, if battery life is your main concern, you might be better off with the Sony XB40. But there is a catch. If the battery on the Sony XB40 gets below 20%, it'll abruptly stop the music, say, please charge, and you'll have no other option than to put the speaker back on the charger because the volume won't go past 30%. This is a feature I'm still trying to figure out how to turn off. I hate it. But speaking of charging these speakers, both of these speakers come included with their own power cords. If you're going to take either of these speakers with you somewhere, you have to remember to bring the charging cable, because they don't charge via micro USB cable like other portable speakers on the market. When it comes to connectivity, the JBL Extreme is using Bluetooth 4.1, while the Sony XB40 is using Bluetooth 4.2. They can both connect to multiple devices at the same time, but the JBL Extreme does have a range of around 50 feet with direct line of sight, whereas the Sony XB40 has a slightly shorter range of around 40 feet with direct line of sight. But I did notice the Sony XB40 did manage to keep a clear connection through more walls than the JBL Extreme. But more importantly, I did notice the Sony XB40 has a little more latency than the JBL Extreme. This means when watching videos with the Sony XB40, lips and audio didn't sync up when people are talking on screen like right now. Whereas the JBL Extreme has a little less latency and is not as noticeable. Now for the moment you've all been waiting for, sound quality. Both of these, in my opinion, are good sounding speakers. But hands down, the JBL Extreme is the better sounding of the two. It has a lot more bass than the Sony XB40, and it manages to get much louder. Both of these speakers have a good amount of depth to them, but the JBL Extreme sounds a little clearer than the Sony XB40. If sound quality is your #1 priority, you're better off with the JBL Extreme. And I'll include a sound comparison at the end of this video. What really sets the Sony XB40 apart from the JBL Extreme is its light feature on the front. You can control it using Sony's mobile app, but keep in mind, it's not the best app out there. But you've got a few light settings like rave, chill, strobe, rave without the strobe lights on the sides, and or a few calm options. If you want a speaker with a little flair, or if you want to pimp your dorm room out, then the Sony XB40 might be what you're looking for. It's a decent light feature, but personally I think the JBL Pulse 3 has the best light feature on the market right now. But to wrap things up, if you want something with a little flair, slightly more durable, slightly smaller, and a slightly better battery life, then go with the Sony XB40. But if sound quality and loudness is all that matters to you, then you'll be better off with the JBL Extreme. It's even great for listening outdoors. If I had to pick one, I would go with the JBL Extreme. But I'm willing to bet JBL will be announcing the new JBL Extreme 2 at CES 2018. I wouldn't be surprised if it came with JBL Connect Plus, because right now it only has the older JBL Connect and can't pair with newer JBL speakers like the Flip 4 or Pulse 3, a longer battery life, IPX7 certification, and sound quality improvements. But comment below and tell me which one you have or plan on getting. Okay, now here's a sound test between the JBL Extreme and Sony XB40. I tried to introduce as many constant variables as possible, so hopefully the only independent variable here is sound quality. Enjoy. Hey, if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It helps out more than you realize. For more product reviews and deal alerts, check out jimcaddy.net. If you want to support the channel, pick up a shirt. And I'll catch you next time.